Yeah, we back. We back. Now, today, man, we're going to talk about the president of Mali, the Honorable Assimi Goita, took a trip to Burkina Faso to meet with his young boy, Ibrahim Traore. We got to talk about it, man. You already know I love to see my brothers express a sentiment of unity, cooperation. I love to see my brothers asserting their sovereignty and independence, because that's what it's about, man. It's about autonomy and self-determination, man. You already know Emmanuel Macron's blood pressure be rising every time he sees images like these. He probably called the meeting with the French Secret Service immediately. Them boys sick, them boys mad. They still don't understand how they still in power. They've tried sanctioning them. They've tried isolating them. They've tried blacklisting them, revoking their visas, and both of these brothers have survived assassination attempts. Man, listen. You already know Emmanuel Macron and the French Secret Service, they sick right now. Oh, they mad. You already know they mad. But anyways, man, let's get into it, man. Let's talk about it. Take a look up on the screen. The president of Mali visits Burkina Faso, an important step in partnership between the two countries. Colonel Assimi Goita is in Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso, on the 25th of June 2024 for a tour of friendship and work, the first since Captain Ibrahim Traore came to power in Burkina Faso. The two heads of state will discuss the security and socioeconomic context in order to strengthen relations among the members of the Alliance of Sahelian States, an organization of which Niger is also a member. Now, this is a translation of the European media, of the French media, so it's translated from French to English, so, keep in mind, in case there's any, grammatical inconsistencies. But anyway, let's continue. It was with military honors and the bulge of fanfare of the Burkinabe army that Assimi Goita threw the red carpet in front of him when he got off the plane on the tarmac of the Ouagadougou airport. At his side, Captain Ibrahim Traore is all smiles. The two men showed great proximity. Captain Ibrahim Traore offered the traditional Burkinabe hat to Colonel Assimi Goita. The presence of the Malian ministers of the territorial administration, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Minister of Finance, and the Minister of Transport and Defense, as well as that of a large part of the Burkinabe government, demonstrate the importance of this meeting for both countries. So it sounds like it wasn't simply a meeting between the two heads of state. It wasn't a regular state visit. It seems like their entire administrations decided to meet on this day. You got the Minister of Defense, the Minister of Transport, the Minister of the Interior, the Minister of Finance. You got the Burkinabe government. It sounds like, man, everybody showed up, man. Everybody showed up, bro. Like I said, let's continue. For the president of Mali, the two states are linked by geography, culture, and many challenges, the main one being the fight against terrorism. He said, in the context of the Alliance of Sahelian States, the cooperation, there is a very good dynamic in our three states, and this momentum now allows us to conduct joint operations. Today, Burkina Faso is allowed to prosecute terrorists on Malian territory, and the Malian army is also allowed to carry out operations and prosecute terrorists in Burkina Faso when necessary. Now, this is what it's about. This is what it's about. This is what I talk about, bro. The cooperation of militaries across Africa, bro. And if you ask me, this is what should have happened 150 years ago when the Europeans were making their incursions during the Berlin Conference. This is what should have happened, because back, in the late 1800s, when the Europeans were making their inroads in Africa, they used to their advantage the fact that our militaries were not cooperating and mobilizing and unifying their forces against the common enemy. But thankfully for us, luckily for us, as students of history, we can look back on the mistakes of our forefathers, on the shortcomings of our forefathers, and correct those mistakes in the modern day. Because if you remember, when these governments were overthrown, when the military had removed these Western bad governments, you saw the entire European Union standing in solidarity with France. Even the irrelevant nations that have no geopolitical relevance at all. You had random nations like Sweden and Portugal standing in solidarity with France. An entire continent standing against individual African nations. That's why it's imperative for us to unite our forces against our common enemies and our common adversaries. That's why I love to hear when the president of Mali said, the Malian army has the liberty to go into Burkina Faso territory and chase down the terrorists, and the Burkina Faso army has the liberty to go into Malian territory and do the same thing. Because we have common interests and common enemies. That's what it's about, man. That's what it's about, bro. That's what it's about. And I don't want to hear any excuses, because if we can collaborate and cooperate with these random nations outside the continent, we can collaborate with the West, the United States, and France and all that shit. How come we can't cooperate with each other? If we can have military alliances and security agreements with the United States and France and all these other nations, why can't we have security agreements amongst each other? What is so difficult about it? It seems like common sense to me. Now, anyway, let's continue. Like I said, it's easy for outsiders to put pressure and take aggressive action against individual nations, but it's not as easy when nations are unified and standing in solidarity. The same way the European Union stood in solidarity behind France, we got to stand in solidarity among each other as brothers. Now let's continue. At the press conference, Assimi Goita said, "We took stock of our bilateral cooperation, addressed security issues and economic development issues. We mainly talked about the challenges we face and how to develop projects to be able to manage these challenges. Terrorism has become a geopolitical issue in the hands of certain strategic partners, but this challenge of the fight against terrorism, which is manipulated and financed by certain foreign powers," we gotta run that back. The fight against terrorism, which is manipulated and financed by certain foreign powers, is far from meeting the aspirations of our populations. This is why we decided to pool our resources, share our information, and carry out operations with great results. Our destinies are linked. We have taken a path of no return. Let it be clear. Now, a few weeks back, I did a video about the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Malian foreign minister, who I believe he went to Rwanda and he spoke at a conference, and he spoke about how the terrorism you see happening in the Sahel region is financed by certain Western powers. And in fact, he said that Mali actually has a case at the Security Council, the UN Security Council, against a member of the UN Security Council. We can only imagine who that may be. We already know what time it is, right? Now, let it be known, if you are financing terrorist groups in a foreign nation, that is an act of war. That is an act of war, because those same terrorists are carrying out mass murders of the population. And if you are financing that operation, you are committing acts of war and crimes against humanity against a foreign nation. And you must be held accountable for that. And you will pay for that one day. One day you will pay for that. You will pay for that. And you're not going to be paying in money either. You're not going to be paying in money. Just remember that. And in fact, I'm going to run footage of the Malian foreign minister actually talking about that. And I'm going to come back. Let's go.
As I said in the previous panel, no African country should outsource its security to foreign military. That is our responsibility, and no one will help us. We need to be mindful of the connection between certain Western powers and terrorist groups. In the Sahel, I think they are very involved in the constitution and the formation of many of the terrorist groups. I would say even some powers have the remote control, because when they decide terrorists will strike in this country, it will come. I think that one is, Mali has even a case before the Security Council against a member of the Security Council for this type of link. For the defense of our country, we need to provide our own solution. And also, the sixth lesson is we have to make sure that we are in the position to finance military expenditure based on our own resources, because this is the price of the sovereignty.
Now, I got big love for the Malian foreign minister. I think that's one of the best diplomats on the African continent. And in fact, I'm going to talk about him also again later in the video. But bringing a case to the UN Security Council against France, I think France is like a high-ranking member of the UN Security Council, is basically like asking the police to investigate one of their officers, right? I mean, I don't think anything is going to really come of it. I respect them for going toe-to-toe and taking it directly to the Western institutions. But like I said, these are Western institutions that are here to defend Western interests. So, you know, it's only so much they're gonna do. I mean, of course, the mission statement of the UN Security Council, of course, they claim they're here to allegedly address issues involving threats to international peace and acts of aggression. But at the end of the day, I believe France is a permanent member of the Security Council. Correct me if I'm wrong. And these institutions are here to defend the interests of their member states. Because for the UN Security Council to take any concrete action, you would need the approval of all the member states. And I believe France would have to approve of that. And France will never approve of any prosecution taking place against them. It's never going to happen. They're going to say, I ain't do nothing, bro. They're going to lie. They're going to go on the stand and lie. You know how they do. You know how these Frenchmen be doing it. They be lying. Because even if all the other member states approve and they support what Mali brings to the table, France is going to use their veto power to block any action being taken against them. That's why we need our own institutions instead of trying to integrate and navigate these Western institutions that do not have our own interests at heart, because they were not created to defend our interests. They were created, if you want to be honest, they were created to commit acts of hostility against us. Now let's continue. The two leaders of Mali and Burkina Faso are set to discuss concrete projects aimed at improving bilateral cooperation, intensifying efforts to combat terrorism, and promoting sustainable development initiatives, as well as ways to coordinate and strengthen the Alliance of Sahelien states. The visit will strengthen ties between the two neighboring nations and lay the foundations for better cooperation aimed at addressing common challenges and opening new perspectives for a brighter future for their respective populations. Now, I want to go back to the Malian foreign minister, the Honorable Mr. Abdoulaye Diop. Shout out to the big homie, man. I believe he made a trip to a European conference and he spoke at a European conference and he said some amazing things. I'm gonna run the footage for y'all. But this off topic, but listen, the Minister of Foreign Affairs from Mali, Mr. Abdoulaye Diop, my boy might be the freshest diplomat on the planet. Every time I see him, he got a crazy fit on. He be having that shit on, man. When it comes to the swag, y'all not messing with my boy Abdoulaye Diop. Y'all not messing with the foreign minister of Mali. Now, anyways, man, I'm gonna run the footage from the conference that happened today. I'm gonna play it in French, and I'm gonna have the English translation coming right after. I'm gonna come back with my commentary. Let's go.
Comprenez qu'avec l'AES, il y a une nouvelle donne géopolitique qui est là. Que vous l'aimez, que vous l'aimiez pas, peu importe. 2. Pour nous, le sort de nos pays ne va pas se décider à Bruxelles, à Paris, à Washington ou à Londres. Ça se décidera à Bamako, à Ouagadougou, à Niamey, etc. Understand that with the ESA, there's a new geopolitical situation. Whether you like it or not, it doesn't matter. 2. For us, the fate of our countries will not be decided in Brussels, Paris, Washington, or London. It will be decided in Bamako, Ouagadougou, Niamey, and so on.
All right, we back. Now you heard what the man said. My man went to Europe. He went into enemy territory and he said this: understand that with the rise of the Alliance of Sahelien states, there is now a new geopolitical order. And whether you like it or not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you think. We don't give a fuck what you're talking about. We don't care what you think, bro. And you heard what he said right after that. Now, the next part is what really gonna have him mad. The next part is what's gonna have him mad down in Washington, down in Paris. They're gonna be extra mad at this part. He said, the fate of our countries will no longer be decided in Brussels, in Paris, in London, in Washington. It will be decided in Bamako, Niamey, and Ouagadougou. Those are the capitals of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Man, I'm telling you, man, when the intelligent, articulate black man is in power, oh man, our enemies don't know what to do. Our enemies don't know what to do. They don't know how to handle the situation, man. They don't know how to approach the situation, bro. When the black man standing on business 10 toes down and he can articulate his position with confidence and authority, and he doesn't care to have a visa in order to come to your country, so you cannot hold that over his head. Listen, man, they don't know what to do with them boys, man. They don't know what to do with them boys. They done threw everything in the kitchen sink at them boys. Revoke their visas for their entire families. Sanction their countries. Try to collapse their economies. Financing terrorism to block their development and destabilize their nations. And them boys still standing. Listen, they would have thought they would have crumbled by now, but they still standing. And as we already know, the never-ending media propaganda campaign to discredit their administrations, right? They've really been ramping up the media propaganda heavy, man. Heavy. And maybe if it was 15 years ago, 30 years ago, they would have already been crushed by now. But now in the era of independent journalism and critical thinking, and camera phones and social media, it's really hard for them to use those outdated tactics from the 80s and the 90s, man. They got to come with a new game plan. They got to come with a new strategy. But anyways, man, let's take a look at some of the reactions on social media. This person said, Goita's forefathers ruled these lands. Goita, that's the president of Mali. Maiga's forefathers ruled these lands. Now, Maiga, I believe that's the prime minister of Mali, if I'm not mistaken. Right now, that's another one. Just like Minister Diop, he be killing our boys with the swag. When it comes to Foreign Minister Abdoulaye Diop, when it comes to Prime Minister Maiga, listen, they be killing y'all boys with the swag, man. Y'all boys got to get y'all swag up, man. Now, of course, ain't nothing wrong with a European suit. I got a nice little European suit collection my goddamn self. But listen, when it comes to that traditional, attire, man, listen, they be killing y'all boys with the swag, man. You know what I'm saying? Tell them boys in Europe get their swag up. Let's continue. Traore's forefathers ruled these lands. Chiani's forefathers ruled these lands. True sons of the soil. True sons of Africa's greatest empires. That's a fact, man. That's a fact. Like when you're talking about the Alliance of Sahelien states, you're looking at the descendants of some of the greatest administrations, some of the greatest kingdoms and empires that the continent has ever produced in its history. You're looking at the descendants that are currently ruling these nations. Now, let's continue. This person said, The Western media alleges that Burkina Faso is losing to the terrorists, but provides no evidence to back up their false claims. Burkina Faso claims they are winning by providing aerial evidence of terrorists on the run from drone and precision weapon attacks. Who will you believe? Now, that's a fact, man. That's a fact. Like I said before, the Western media has been going 100 miles per hour with their propaganda campaigns, right? They saying, man, the terrorists are destroying the armies of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, but you never see any evidence of that, right? And when you ask them for a source, the only source they mention is some American think tank or some German think tank or some British think tank. It's never coming from anybody actually on the ground. It's some white dude far away in some European country. But the evidence we do have is the armies of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger destroying and deep frying and flambeing them terrorists, right? We got countless video evidence from their jets in the sky launching strikes against enemy positions, right? I've seen so many photos of terrorists burnt up, looking like some burnt up chicken. Like when you leave the food in the oven for too long, I see them boys burnt up to a crisp. And in fact, them boys getting destroyed so much that they're actually trying to flee into different nations. They're trying to flee into northern Nigeria. They're trying to flee into Ivory Coast. They're trying to flee into Algeria. They're trying to flee into Mauritania. So if they're winning, how come we have countless photos and videos of them being burnt to a crisp, being burnt to dust, and they're fleeing into other neighboring nations because it's too hot to stay in Mali and Burkina Faso and Niger. As soon as they show up, they getting hit with the drone strikes. And keep in mind, these boys only been in power for a very short time. The militaries of France and the United States were stationed in the region for 10, 15 years, and they didn't accomplish nothing. They didn't do shit. In fact, we had a 4-star general in the US Army. He admitted that during the time when the United States and France were stationed in Africa, terrorism in Africa skyrocketed from 4% to 40%, a 10-fold increase. But how come the Western media isn't running any articles talking about the incompetence of Western militaries in their fight against terrorism, right? How you stationed in the region for over 10, 15 years and terrorism actually skyrockets 10-fold? So really, all that means to me is all that shit is projection. When they talk about how the armies of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger are getting destroyed by the terrorists, they're really projecting their own failures. They're really projecting their own failures and that's what they hope would happen. But the evidence we do have doesn't support their claims. You know, we don't have any evidence of them being destroyed, but we do have evidence of the terrorists being destroyed and burnt to a crisp and running again hit with drone strikes. Now, I can't play that footage on my channel because I'm going to get hit with a strike on my own channel. I would love to show y'all the burnt up corpses and the drone strikes and the enemy just getting vanquished, but I can't show that on my channel. I can't show you that. But even if you go on social media, because keep in mind, you know, it's funny, right? Believe it or not, some of these jihadist terrorists are actually on social media. They're on Twitter, they're on Facebook. When I go on their social media pages, how come they don't sound victorious? How come they sound defeated? I don't see them celebrating any stories of triumph and victory. Them boys sound like they're getting their ass smashed. I see them paying tribute and giving condolences to their fallen compatriots. I see them talking about how the government is committing genocide against them. Them boys do not sound like they're victorious, but them boys sound like they're getting their shit pushed in, if you want to be honest. But like I said, leave it to the Western media to tell their lies and propaganda. But anyways, man, it's a boy Neferkari, that's Salim. Back in the Billy, yes indeed. Cash App in the description. Support the album, man. Support the album. Peace.
No. Feel like I'm 75. Know that your team be full of them traders, you know that can never be mine. I'm grabbing a thought when I drive. I'm back in my zone and we young. She said that she ready to come be my wife, yeah, hoping I don't do her wrong. I gave her my word and it's bond. I'm whipping the best like a lamb. I'm eating no chicken and lamb. Accustomed to call me the man. I never be up on the gram. I'm keeping that way undercover. She want me to tell her I love her. I told her I'm breaking the rules. I told her we making the news. Back in my city, they loving me. Standing alone, I'm 100 deep. Enemy plotting and still in reach. They try to make sure that we underneath. Trying to make sure that we never make it. Coming for power, come get acquainted. Coming for everything that I wanted. Feeling like Drake, but I really wrote it. Feeling like Kendrick, I'm checking names. Gotta roll up while I go insane. Got so much stress, I've been gated away. Stuffing these racks in this Louis case. One thing for certain, I'm about to check. Keep it 100 and nothing less. Stick with the family since day one. Had to stay down till my day come. Had to stay down, but I'm never patient. Hop on the mic and I'm motivated. Hop on the mic and I drop a classic. Haters can't see me, they copping glasses. Back in the studio making magic. Got a new tape and it's in production. Back on my business, I got a budget. Staying low key when I'm out in public. Feel like I'm 75. Know that your team be full of them traders, you know that can never be mine. I'm grabbing a thought when I drive. I'm back in my zone and we young. She said that she ready to come be my wife, yeah, hoping I don't do her wrong. I gave her my word and it's bond. I'm whipping the best like a never be up on the gram. I'm keeping that way undercover. She want me to tell her I love her. I told her I'm breaking the rules. I told her we making the news. Making the